Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Monday's edition of the dceu Daily. The story of the Batfleck movie may be even more interesting than the actual Batfleck movie, but let's think about this for a moment. The Batfleck movie was literally cancelled not because of Ben Affleck's alcoholism or issues or anything like that. It was cancelled because they wanted to cancel and move away from the Snyderverse. They didn't like Batfleck's movie because it was a dark, gritty, psychological thriller. In turn, to replace that movie, they brought in Matt Reeves to make a dark, gritty, psychological thriller. I just don't understand the logic of Warner Brothers at times. Now, Screen Rant journalist Brad Curran in 2020 did an article revealing everything we know about the Batfleck movie, and I think once we've read all of this, if you don't know about this movie, you'll think, wait a minute, Mick, this would have been pretty awesome. Now, I want to be clear, I am not a Matt Reeves the Batman hater. As you know, if you follow me on Twitter and on here, I'm very much excited for this movie, but still it smells of hypocrisy to actually can this film and pretty much make another dark film that test screening audiences have said is like a fucking horror film. Anyway, and to bin and can this movie that pretty much does exactly the same thing in a different way. Everything revealed about Ben Affleck's Batman movie story. Ben Affleck's solo Batman movie was never made, but with Affleck back in the dceu in The Flash, here's what we know about his abandoned story by Brad Curran of Screen Rant. It may never make it to the big screen, but thanks to story leaks, a fair bit is known about what Ben Affleck's abandoned Batman movie would have been. Affleck's time as the Caped Crusader has certainly been a roller coaster, going from a huge fan backlash to his casting to many coming to regard him as the best version of the character after Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. Now, what I will say about Ben's Batman and Bruce Wayne, not that he's the best one ever, but that he's one of the best ever. I think I can in balance say that. Amid the film's polarised reception though, Affleck had a solo Batman film in the works. He ended up stepping down from directing duties and later left the DC Extended Universe altogether in 2019, the theatrical demise of Justice League occurring between the two. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes director Matt Reeves subsequently stepped in to helm the Batman, casting Robert Pattinson as his Bruce Wayne and establishing the film as its own distinct continuity outside of the DCEU. Correction, outside of the DCEU Earth 1. Though Affleck had seemingly shut the door on his days in Gotham City, his departure was later followed by the announcement that the Justice League Snyder Cut would debut on HBO Max in 2021. A few months later, Affleck officially signed on to return as Batman in Andy Muschietti's The Flash, which will also feature Michael Keaton appearing as his version of Batman, thanks to the film's multiverse plot elements. Though much of Affleck's early time as Batman was plagued by behind-the-scenes issues, his return in both the Snyder Cut and The Flash has excited many fans, enamoured with his portrayal, and thanks to DC's new multiverse strategy, his return doesn't undermine what Matt Reeves has planned for the Batman. With all of that said, many are still profoundly curious about what Affleck had planned for his solo Batman movie, and some details have managed to slip out into the public about what it was shaping up to be. Affleck's script featured Arkham Asylum. Now, I think we were looking at a kind of Arkham Games kind of movie, which is something that excited a great many of us. Cinematographer Robert Richardson was attached as director of photography for Affleck's Batman movie, and he revealed in an interview with Josh Horowitz on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast that the movie was taking of a dive into insanity aspects. As it turns, this would have been quite literal, with Richardson explaining that the movie would have involved Arkham Asylum and the darker side of Batman. Considering how far gone Bruce Wayne was in Batman vs Superman and the redemption he was to experience and now will in the Snyder Cut, it's hard to fully gauge how Affleck's movie would have plunged into Batman's dark side. though going a bit more into the past of Affleck's Bruce Wayne could be a part of it. At the same time, the Arkham Asylum reveal has a little more meat to it. Basically, we know this. I don't know if this is covered in this article because I've never read it before, and if I have read it before, I can't remember it. You know what my memory's like. But, you know, Deathstroke was going to fuck with Batfleck deeply. You know, he was going to destroy his entire life, and I think that's where these darker elements of Batman would have come from. Though Arkham has been a part of previous Batman movies, particularly Batman Begins, it's never really been a centralised setting in the way Richardson's description makes it sound. With Arkham notoriously housing the worst criminal elements of Gotham City, it is well known as the basis of the highly popular Batman Arkham video game franchise, so it's possible that Affleck may have drawn some inspiration from there. The involvement of Arkham might also point to some classic Batman villains possibly making appearances. However, the main villain was always Deathstroke. Interesting. So it looks like Jared Leto's Joker would have been one of many who we would have seen in a cameo in this movie, and probably kind of new iterations of the Rogue Gallery as well, played by actors we hadn't seen before. So, you know, that would have been an exciting element. I think we were looking here at a 3-hour movie. Surprise, surprise. It looks like Matt Reeves, the Batman, is also a 3-hour movie. Deathstroke was out to ruin Bruce Wayne's life. Now, we see in the Snyder Cut an interaction between Lex Luthor, aka Jesse Eisenberg, and Deathstroke. Lex tells him Batman's true identity, so that it would have continued from there. So it was all set up beautifully. Among the cast members to return for some additional filming on the Snyder Cut, Joe Manganiello has shared quite a bit on both the unrealised Deathstroke solo movie, which he still hopes will come to fruition after the Snyder Cut, and Affleck's Batman film. Speaking to Yahoo, Manganiello described the movie as a really dark story and said that it involved Slade Wilson dismantling Bruce's life from the inside out, as I've already said. Manganiello further revealed that Slade killed everyone close to Bruce and destroyed his life. Jesus Christ. We're talking about him killing everyone, killing his life, but not killing him. This is what Deathstroke did to Oliver Queen in Arrow Season 2. He literally plunged a sword inside of Oliver's mother, Moira Queen, in front of Oliver and her daughter, Thea. And that was great. What they did with that character in Season 2 of Arrow was great. And I think they were going for a similar thing, but a more brutal thing, in Ben Affleck's The Batman. Blaming him for a misfortune. Clearly, Affleck intended to challenge Batman in a way that he'd never been before on film. While Manganiello's description of Deathstroke killing those dearest to Bruce may be more telling than it seems. With the template set by Zack Snyder, the DCEU is a franchise where any character is fair game to be killed off. Snyder revealed Dick Grayson as the deceased Robin, whose suit was seen in the Batcave, while Batman himself was even meant to sacrifice his life later on, as established by Batman vs Superman. Affleck's Bruce Wayne was one who'd experienced tremendous tragedy and didn't appear to have a large circle of friends outside of his butler and close ally, Alfred Pennyworth. Portrayed by Jeremy Irons, based on Manganiello's description, it seems likely that Alfred would have been killed by Deathstroke in the movie. And this lines up with Richardson's description of the film exploring Batman's dark side. Though he'd already been pulled back from the brink in Batman vs Superman, the death of Alfred would sure be a crushing loss for Bruce, with his newfound alliance with the Justice League possibly being the connection that saved him from going past the point of no return. What's interesting here, we see in the Snyder Cut that he says to Alfred, "I'm choosing to have faith." And so what happens in this film takes him back again, and this would affect him in Justice League 2 and 3, of course, which would have been an amazing thing to see on film. Affleck's Batman movie was similar to David Fincher films. Now, this is interesting again, because this is what we've been told about Matt Reeves' The Batman as well. Could it be that both of these versions are kind of similar to each other? That's interesting, isn't it? In addition to the details revealed by Manganiello already mentioned above, he also stated there were similarities to the game, referencing David Fincher's 1997 thriller. The film sees Michael Douglas playing a rich man taking part in what he believes to be a simple game, only for his life to be thrown into chaos. This dovetails with Manganiello's previous description of Deathstroke dismantling Bruce Wayne's life in the film, and between the two, it appears that Affleck's Batman might have fallen to an even lower point than where he was seen in Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. In some respects, it also looks like Affleck may have been pulling from the Nightfall story from the comics, in which Batman is pushed to his limits, though the machinations of Bane before being infamously crippled. In any case, what is very clear was that after the Dark Knight's redemption by Superman, Affleck intended to put Batman into a very psychologically taxing story with a methodical and sadistic villain, perhaps wanting to further drive home just how damaged his Bruce Wayne was from all he'd experienced, and putting him through one more soul-crushing challenge in his solo movie. With everything that's been made public about Affleck's Batman film, it sounds like it could have really been an amazing story for The Dark Knight, as storyboard artist Jay Oliver has endorsed it to have been, though Affleck will be seen as Batman at least twice more in the Snyder Cut, which has already happened of course, and The Flash. His Batman movie remains on an unrealised story within the DCEU. Nevertheless, the fact that he's returned at all was a development that many believed was impossible, and DC is now clearly comfortable with having multiple Batman at once as part of its multiverse. When it comes to the DCEU, the last year's worth of developments show that literally anything can happen. And I agree, I really do agree with you, Brad. Great article from 2020 there. This is a film, as I say, that's dark, gritty, a psychological thriller that sees Deathstroke destroy Batman's life from the inside and out. Now, I don't know if Batfleck was going to be crippled like in that Batman graphic novel, but it's certainly he was going to cripple him psychologically and emotionally. And so the difference between this The Batman and Matt Reeves' The Batman, in Matt Reeves' The Batman, we're dealing with a year 2 Batman. And this is a Batman near the end of his life cycle, if you put it that way. Listen, they were doing a Make the Batfleck movie event on Twitter yesterday, and I think it trended a little bit. I don't think the Make the Batfleck trend goes as high as Restore the Snyderverse or even Release the Air Cut, but I think it's a very popular thing. I would certainly love to see it, and I'd love to know in your comments down below, with the multiverse strategy in full swing, in development, do you think it's feasible for this movie to be made? Here's my take. If Ben Affleck wants to do it, then Ben Affleck should do it. Rachel Zegler, who will be in Shazam Fury of the Gods in 2023, and in a brand new Steven Spielberg movie in November-December, a musical of all things, is a very interesting young woman who I've interacted with on Twitter. Sometimes it's become a bit heated between us because she certainly has been trained the Hollywood way, but she's very talented. She's the new kid on the block, and David F. Sandberg has been discussing her. Shazam 2 director plays coy about Rachel Zegler's mystery role. Now, this is an interesting role. Is she a good guy? Is she a bad guy? Is she someone who has a future within the future of the DCEU? I think she's certainly got a future. Whether she's playing a good character or a bad character, I can't tell you. And it looks like David F. Sandberg, in his jovial usual little way, is unwilling to tell us either. Shazam Fury of the Gods director David F. Sandberg has the perfect response to a fan question about Rachel Zegler's role, though it doesn't quite answer it. By Rachel Abernathy of Screen Rant. Shazam Fury of the Gods director David F. Sandberg playfully trolls fans over questions about Rachel Zegler's mystery role. Sandberg's first foray into the DCEU 2019 Shazam brought a burst of colourful childlike wonder to the typically darker franchise as it introduced young hero Billy Batson, Asher Angel as a teen, Zachary Levi as an adult, greeted with positive reviews and a solid 363.6 million worldwide total. Now that is not a flop, Agenda Artists, because the film was made for an under 100 million. So a great result, and I think the next movie, which we're talking about now, is going to do even better. Shazam was a success for the franchise. A sequel was announced to be in the works right as it opened, and after multiple schedule changes, it is currently slated to premiere in June 2023. Would it be funny if they move it back to 2022? That would be another movie in a jam-packed 2022. We'll have to wait. I just can't see this film coming out in 2023, but we'll have to wait and see for that. Little is known about the plot for Shazam! Fury of the Gods, save for that it will find Billy and his foster siblings continuously adjusting to their newfound powers. As the title suggests, they'll end up facing some godly opponents in this one. The two main villains be played by impressive actresses Dame Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu. Additionally, West Side Story, that's what she's in, star Rachel Zegler has a role in Shazam 2. But aside from the fact that she's reportedly the sister of Mirren and Liu's character, little is known about who she's playing. Sandberg isn't providing any answers either. During a Q&A session on his Instagram, Sandberg fielded a question regarding Zegler's Shazam 2 role. Who is Rachel Zegler playing? A fan asked. Sandberg replied by attaching a picture of Snow White. Zegler was cast as Disney's Snow White back in June. So technically, he isn't lying. Just by him doing this sarcastically proves she's the very opposite of Snow White. She's no Snow White in this film. This is obvious. But I think she either seduced Billy Batson or, more realistically, probably Freddie Freeman, who's really primed to be manipulated by someone. Zegler is about to break out in a major way thanks to her role as Maria in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. By adding Snow White and Shazam 2 to her growing filmography, Zegler is further cementing her status as a rising star. Because of that, there's a lot of interest in her Fury of the Gods character, but for some reason she's being kept a mystery. Mirren and Liu are already confirmed to be playing Hespera and Calypso, respectively, so one has to wonder why Zegler's name hasn't even been revealed, because I think she's playing an iconic DC character, and I think by the time we've all seen West Side Story, younger audiences will be thinking, shit, she's in Fury of the Gods, we're going to watch that movie. So I think her inclusion in this was a stroke of genius by Warner Brothers and David F. Sandberg. Thanks to a recent Shazam 2 trailer, it's at least been confirmed that Zegler will form a connection with Jack Dylan Grazer's Freddie Freeman. Set photos hinted at a romantic spark between the two, and it looks like that will be her introduction to Billy and his siblings. Now, I think it's pretty obvious that she uses Freddie to get to Shazam. Whether Zegler is an ally or will later betray them to align with her sisters remains to be seen. But as Shazam! Fury of the Gods slowly gets closer, expect more details about her to finally emerge. Now, Black Adam is very good at the magic, isn't he? What if Black Adam disguises himself as Rachel's character? Wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah, I think Shazam! Fury of the Gods is going to be an awesome film, but I think it's probably the most anticipated movie in the DC Extended Universe, kind of this slate of films. I'm excited for it, but not as excited as I am for the other movies. And I think David is going to have to do things like that to pique people's interest. And a Q&A is a great way of doing that. The CW and WBTV are going to regret the day they cast and messed with Ruby Rose. Now, she made some big revelations the other day on her Instagram. Go and follow her on there, because she let some more bombs off yesterday on her Instagram story. There are no comments available on her Instagram story, but she's certainly releasing a lot of stuff, and she's not going to give up. Now, after her original revelation, CBR.com was speaking to some alleged, previous employee of Batwoman backing the studio that she was a troublemaker and that's why she was removed from the production. Well, Rachel exposed that. Not Rachel, what am I talking about? I'm still thinking of Rachel Ziegler. Ruby exposed that as him just being a CW plant. So this is becoming very interesting. Now, just like Ray Fisher, she's not going to let go. But I think she's even more dangerous to the company than Ray is. I think Ray's run out of steam now. He's run out of information. But she seems to know where the real bodies are buried. Ruby Rose releases emails to back up her Batwoman allegations. Ruby Rose has taken another step in exposing what happened on the set of Batwoman, this time posting several emails and texts backing up her claims by Rachel Lebanotti of Screen Rant. Ruby Rose sheds more light on the terrible on-set conditions for the CW's Batwoman by publishing various emails from her time on the show. Rose played Kate Kane, aka Batwoman, for the Arrowverse in 2 crossover events and 1 season of her solo television series. Fans were stunned when she departed Batwoman after the first season, and at the time Rose kept quiet about her reasons for leaving. It initially seemed to be a mutual decision, which none of us believed, did we? But Rose stunned fans last week when she came out with a series of allegations of terrible on-set conditions aimed at the CW, showrunner Caroline Dries and co-stars including Dougray Scott. In a series of posts made last week, Rose detailed her side of what went down on the Batwoman set, from being forced back on set a mere 10 days after getting emergency surgery to revealing the truth behind her missed Comic-Con appearance in 2019. Rose's allegations were largely aimed at Dries and Warner Brothers TV's then President Peter Roth. Rose also touched upon the horrific accidents that occurred on the Batwoman set, including an incident where a PA was paralysed. Though Warner Brothers TV, Scott and co-star Cameron Johnson have fought back against Rose's claims, the actress has begun backing things up with evidence of her own. As I say, there's some people in life you don't fuck with, and anyone who knows Ruby's history knows not to fuck with her. At the end of the day, the fandom menace can say what they want. She has got a great CV, and she's doing big work with elite people in movies again. That says something about her. I said this the other day. If she's such a troublemaker, why are these other productions even touching her? Let's think about that for a minute, because they know she's in the right and she's a good person. Over the weekend, Rose began posting screenshots of various emails and text conversations about her time on Batwoman. A good number are emails between her and a talent manager, Carol Bodie, the first of which sees Rose threatening to walk away from Batwoman. Beyond that, Rose touched upon difficulties she had regarding an EW photo shoot not long after her surgery and issues on the Batwoman set with airflow, which caused difficulty breathing because of her surgery. You can see all 27 screenshots via CBR down below. I mean, this one says, honestly, Carol, I'm so close to being done with this show. Between the atmosphere, the BS, the investigation, surgery, I'm really about to walk. I won't take crumbs. Do better. Use this situation as a way to change the industry and the world. But keep up the smear campaign, because it only fires me up to continue this when that's the last thing I wanted. So she's not backing down. Their reaction by trying to smear her is pretty much putting her on this course. I meant walk today until I can get my breath and have a talk with SAG and or Greg and just everyone except maybe Caroline to work this whole thing out. I don't know about walking from the show for good. Maybe I want to, but I fear huge consequences. This isn't even in the report, just reminding you I'm still here and you have an opportunity to change things. Greg Berlanti, thank you. You're gorgeous orchid. You are so thoughtful, but the real gift is your amazing performance and hard work. Very thankful for your talent and kindness. Have an amazing time off and congrats on such a wonderful success this year. Wow, sent from my iPhone. I can't really read this stuff here. Let's have a look. I actually like Greg. I still want to believe he has a human side. So this is hard, but again, in the report, because of the report, it Huawei, that doesn't make sense, does it? Too intensive to have I can't read this, it's joined up right. I don't know why she does this, but my work ethic was never questioned until I was injured and walked and stayed and was fired, lol. So we got there in the end, sorry about that. Off to bed, but deciding between releasing Caroline's email about not being an LGBT activist or feminist, but saying she could be one for others through the show, i.e. monetizing gays, is how she found desire to make people feel included, or the email exchanges when I did leave, and the truth's in that from all three of them. Let me give them time to act privately, which is all I wanted. Mediation, not litigation. Appropriately, which should be fast, considering when I went to hire a litigation lawyer, Greg had hired them all. Wow, to stop her from doing it. That's crazy, right? These are the levels of what these people will go to. So that's very, very interesting, isn't it? That she's saying that Caroline Dries and literally the CW are monetizing gay people. But this is what I keep telling you all. They don't care about inclusion and representation. They've seen an opportunity with the LGBTQ community to monetize them. That's it. They don't really care about what they're talking about. I've never seen such an obsessive, political agenda in an industry like the entertainment industry right now, and they just won't stop. And this is what happens when you're not genuine. They left entertainment behind and replaced it with politics so they could monetize identity politics. Take a think about that for a minute. I love my crew. They just can't speak out because of NDAs. And last night on set was absolutely catastrophic. I don't know if it's a Dermot or what, or who or how, but people were yelling at each other and walking off set. And it was so stressful. Eddie was like a piece of Scotch tape on the side of the Titanic. This might sound like a very strange ask, but it's there a way to have a no yelling at crew or production or anyone rule on set. Just a no yelling rule. That's a Joe Roth rule on his films, just to keep the love and patience up. The morale up. It's stressful and hard enough on the crew and actors pulling all-nighters and 16-hour days and 14-hour camera days without people losing their temper and getting aggressive. I felt like I had to be the comedic relief for cast and crew and camera and the whole room, which is fine, but I too am tired and it just makes all our jobs a little harder. Now, this request to have a no shouting rule. Now, maybe a no toxicity rule, a no, abusive rule, but I think, to ask on a loud set for a no shouting rule, it simply isn't possible, Ruby, which surely you already know. And actors pulling all-nighters and 60-hour days and 14-hour camera days without people losing their temper and getting aggressive. I felt like I had to be yes, she's already said that. Elise was an actual PA. The person in that article isn't on one call sheet. I checked 3 months worth. Warren walked off set. Also, I knew about Elise. I kept trying to get her to get help and she wouldn't. It was bad. Caroline sent me an email and I haven't responded yet because I feel like I need to really say my piece. This is awful. Also, traffic so horrific. I'm going to be late. I'm stressing. Wow. And there's more. Basically, there's just more and more and more. It just doesn't end. To heal perfectly and not have issues later, they wanted me to shoot 2 covers this week, but there was just not a chance in hell I could get into that suit and not absolutely crash. So hopefully it will all work out. Gonna have a sick Scarlo. The sickest Scarlo. As I was reading the covers part, I went, oh no, out loud. So I'm glad you turned them down for now. That crap would have sucked. Exactly right. Heal up right away and you'll be back to playing in no time. Dope. P.S. I still shot those 2 covers. How silly to think I had an option. More on that tomorrow. Didn't do it for me. I didn't need them. I'd already shot the previous EW cover, but 6 days after surgery was when they wanted me to shoot. Oof. Those emails are heartbreaking, but say a lot. So this is what happens when you try to, make someone look bad so you can protect your criminal and immoral position. And this industry does it a lot. And Ruby is playing for keeps here. And I may not have really thought much of her during Batwoman, but this stage of this situation, I've grown, in my respect for the woman, because this is very brave. Rose also took issue with this interview with CBR, though the publication has insisted they vetted the alleged Batwoman crew member. Rose fires back against this later on. What's interesting about this is, of course, they can say they vetted this source, who apparently used to work on the Batwoman set. It's probably a CW plant. This CBR journalist, allegedly, I'm alleging it, probably took some money or whatever, right, and reported this interview. You know, this is so interesting because this is what the entertainment industry do. Batwoman crew member backs WBTV calls Ruby Rose a dictator. Do not one person at CBR or Forbes even do due diligence about this person who not only does no one I spoke to at Batwoman know or isn't on any of the season 1 Batwoman call sheets and isn't credited on IMDb with any association to my show. So the journalist's response to this is that he was well vetted, but he doesn't give any evidence back of this vetting. So I'm alleging again, he's obviously lying. So wow, it just goes on and on and on. Wait until the busiest time of the season, crossovers, to investigate my injury, only to threaten me the whole time. I spent a week getting zero sleep, collecting all x-rays, emails, professional options, only for my team later to be told B they have decided to end the investigation before the PI finalises the report and will not share the outcome. This is very similar to the Ray Fisher situation with WB. They tried exactly the same things and Ray wouldn't leave it alone. My surgery was the 18th of June. They wanted me to shoot two covers starting the 24th days after surgery, 5 days after surgery, and after 1,000 emails a day every day after my surgery to do with work. There was not one day of downtime. I declined. Then they told me the whole Arrowverse would be affected because just like the year before, without me, they would lose the whole cover for the show and cast, like I said. Wow. I mean, so they wouldn't fly a photographer to Vancouver to not lose the cover for the leads of all the Arrowverse shows, but made me fly back to LA, and when I said I couldn't wear the costume yet, they agreed. They later said, you have to. Everyone else did. This is all in the first weeks of surgery. Wow. And it just goes on and on and on and on. Oh my God, this is crazy. Wow, shit. Jesus Christ. You should really check out her Instagram. Wow. This is a great deal of evidence. If I read all of this, we'll be here all day, but we'll carry on with the article. This is a great deal of evidence to sort through, and by Rose's own words, it doesn't even appear to be all that she has in her possession. The actress initially referenced some additional emails from Dries, but instead pivoted towards the terrible experience she had with the EW photo shoots. Some of the things Rose exposed in these posts were referenced in her original allegations, such as her request that people not yell on the Batwoman set, allegedly because of Scott's actions. Rose also confronts the idea that she was difficult while filming Batwoman, a counterclaim that many associated with the show, including WBTV, have touted since she came forward with her allegations. It remains to be seen if Rose will post more evidence backing her Batwoman claims, or if these screenshots will result in any further responses from those associated with the show. Though they do only contribute to Rose's side of the story, they also show that she was forced into additional work while still recovering from major surgery, and that she was dissatisfied with what was happening on set. The incident regarding the airflow in particular raises some eyebrows, since it looks like those working on Batwoman never properly addressed it. Rose isn't backing down in her determination to reveal her side of the story, so expect more developments to emerge soon. Yes, today. She's going to keep on doing this. They kind of rocked the hammock by saying she was difficult, and that's why they sacked her. They'll probably bring in, I'm going to allege this so I don't get into trouble, that they're going to bring in some people to say she was difficult. But I think she's going to win this. I really do. And this is a dark, dark day for WB, and I don't know how they survived this. I really don't. I don't know how the future of Batwoman looks with what she's doing here. And also, this goes deeper. I think this is the end of the CW. And I'll keep reporting this as this comes out, because this is very, very important. And in closing, it's okay to enjoy your entertainment. It's okay to love all of DC That's great, that's brilliant. Some of us love all of it, some of us love portions of it. And that's okay. But we can't turn a blind eye as consumers to cruelty on the set. Look what happened to that poor lady who paid from that incompetence on that set, or whatever was the cause to it, with her life. This is becoming very, very serious now. This is an industry that likes to lecture and tell us how to live our lives and call us, you know, toxic males and things like that, when they're the real immoral ones. They're the ones with the toxicity, and they are being exposed every day. I want to enjoy, I love movies, I love stories, I love TV dramas. I respect the work these people do, but they themselves have exposed themselves, have put themselves on their stand from the accusations they make about ordinary working class people, and now it's them who are the problem, who are treating people badly. And I always enjoy films, and I won't stop watching them, but the practices and the way these films are made have to be pure, and people have to be safe on the set. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment down below about any of the talking points today or anything else you want to talk about. Hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.